Hello neighbors, welcome back to the channel. We're continuing with the Beginnermediate summer series here. And one of the most popular bluegrass instrument of all time is Foggy Mountain Breakdown. Little subjectively interesting trivia. So some of the older generation might remember a movie called Bonnie and Clyde. This was the big bluegrass song on that soundtrack with Warren Beatty. But one really cool piece of trivia that is largely unknown, and I learned this from Pete Kuykendall, who used to be the owner and editor of Bluegrass Unlimited magazine. I was the executive vice president of his basement for a couple of years or so. He gave me a job when I needed one. He said, you don't put them on the cover, you give them a job, which is what I needed at the time. I learned lots of great stuff from Pete, and included was this little piece of trivia about Foggy Mountain Breakdown. So in his high school class, they did like, what do you want to do? And he brought in a couple of hillbilly records because he wanted to be a DJ. And he did end up becoming a DJ and a recording engineer and a banjo picker and owner, blah, blah, blah. So helped start IBMA. He's a really key figure in bluegrass. If you don't know who Pete Kuykendall is, he was also credited as Pete Roberts in the Frank Wayfield and Red Allen recordings. Anyway, so he brings Foggy Mountain Breakdown in as a record and plays it for his class because he wants to be a DJ. A young man comes up to him after the class and says, hey, tell me more about that record. I like that music. I can't remember exactly what he said. And so he told him a little bit more about Lester Flatt, Earl Scruggs, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that was Warren Beatty. So Pete Kuykendall went to school with Warren Beatty, and that's where Warren Beatty heard Foggy Mountain Breakdown, written by Earl Scruggs. And if you learn the bluegrass breakdown easy, then this is going to come pretty easy because it's got a lot of the same technology because it was probably written by the same person. Earl Scruggs was not really credited with getting bluegrass breakdown written, but I think he did. And so he just kind of changed one chord and came up with Foggy Mountain Breakdown. We're going to learn a very easy version, and then we're going to put some upgrades in it. Okay, so first thing we need to do is learn the chords. All right, so it goes like this. It's in G there, then it goes down to E minor, back G, 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 down to E minor for full bar, G, 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 full bar, D, 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 back to G, 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 G. Okay, there's a little bit of a discrepancy about now what is the actual chord? Is it E major or E minor? So my mom had that same question, and she actually wrote Earl Scruggs. This is back in the 80s, I guess. Why are you playing the banjo notes for an E minor, chord tones and arpeggio kind of thing with his roll, and then Lester Flatt's playing an E major? Earl Scruggs wrote her back and said Lester didn't know E minor, which is a little bit bizarre, because I think he uses it on like Down the Road Just a Mile or Two. I think he was playing an E minor on there. So who knows? But that was what Earl said. Lester didn't know E minor. And so it's one of these places where the melody is playing the minorness and the chords are playing the major. Another little tidbit, I'm sharing, I'm kind of all over the place today. But in Southern Flavor, the band's playing an E minor chord, but Bill's chopping an E major. This is what you call a bluegrass sound, okay? Just file that away for when you ever get on Jeopardy, bluegrass style. So back to the chords, we got G2, 3, 4, G2, 3, 4. So 2 full bars of G in the modern count. 8, beats total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I would suggest playing an E minor here. You can voice it different ways. You can do your chop E minor. Just find your E major chord, rooted with your ring finger on, of course, the 9th fret of the G, and then just pulling your first finger back 1 fret. Okay, there's your E minor, you can do that. What I like to do usually is bar the 2nd fret of the D, 2nd fret of the A, and 4th fret of the G, have the open E. That's nice, kind of, it's like an E neutral, it's not really major or minor. So E minor, back to G, so you got the E minor for 4 beats, and back to G for 4 beats. 2, 3, 4, E minor again for 4 beats, G major for 4 beats, and you got a full bar of D, and back to G. Okay, so now we need to get the hummy part of it in our minds because that's going to help us, all right? So we're going to kind of approximate some of what the melody is, and then we're going to kind of do some more double stoppy stuff, which is a little bit more like the fiddle plays, because it's kind of hard to play. More like the banjo, so we're going to do some broad, brushy, nice, easy, accessible, beginner-mediate level double stops for that little part there. But let's kind of get the hummy shape of this in our minds, all right? But before we do, please like and subscribe. Go ahead and hit that little bell there for the notifications, and you'll get all the good stuff from Noy Mountain Music. Thank you. And please consider becoming a patron on patreon.com/NoyaMountainMusic. And now here, the banjo, like I was saying, we're just gonna do this double side. And then now here on this part, we will quote the melody. And you can walk it down to the D. Beginnermediate step there. Let's go again. Sliding to 51 and 13. Double stop there. E. Little melody piece to let them know what song we're playing. All right. So it's not going to be too hard. And then we can figure out some more upgrades as we're going down the road. Starting out with the downbeat, it's going to be very similar to Bluegrass Breakdown. All right, slide into your 51 double stop, 5th fret of the A, 3rd fret of the E. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... We can basically play the exact same thing we played on Bluegrass Breakdown for this. We're going to start there, okay? 51 double stop, 5th fret of the A, 3rd fret of the E, push into that 3 times. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a sliding into it, and then your 5th fret of the D, 2nd fret of the A, the bottom of your G chalk chord. This is playing out of the chalk chord, of course. We've learned that in Bluegrass Breakdown. Slide into that 5th fret of the D, 2nd fret of the A. And then we're going to come down here to these, do these 51 double stop, 4th fret of the G, 2nd fret of the D. We'll slide into that too. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a... Okay, so that's our first part. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E, 3 E and a 4 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. Now we're going to get out of our big broad brushy double stops and do some more single pick, and we'll do something like this. All right. 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 and... Okay, so you're starting on the 5th fret of the A. Then you're going to slide up from the 1st fret to the 2nd fret. You will play that 1st fret. 1 and a 2 E. All right. 1 and a 2 E and... So you're sliding to your 2nd fret. 1. So down, down, up, down, up, down. Open A. 1 and a 2 E and then the bottom of your 3-fingered G chop chord. 3 and a 4 E and... All right, so that part. 1 and a 2 E and 3 and a 4 E and... That's kind of halfway through. And you do your E 51 double stop again. This is the 5th note in the E scale, and then the 1st note in the E scale. That's what I call 51. 4th fret of the G, 2nd fret of the D. If I'm going too fast, slow things down. It's got a variable speed on YouTube. You know what to do probably. All right, so you're sliding to that again. Stop the video if you need to. Don't write it down. All that's the same in the E minor. And then we come back to our melody. That's going to be the same, or you could walk it down to the open D. Let's go ahead and adopt that as our ride there. 1 and a 2 E and 3 and... So play that 5th fret twice. 4 and 1. So after play the 5th fret twice, 4th fret of the D, 2nd fret of the D, and the open D. This is going to bring us to our D major chord, and we're going to do a little kind of boogie-woogie kind of thing, a little bit. Do a single stroke to start out. All right, this is like your arpeggio with a 6th note in it in D. Open D, 4th fret of the D, open A, 2nd fret of the A, that's your 6th note in D. And after the D note, 5th fret of the A. Okay, that's your first part. 1 and 2 and 3. From here, we're gonna walk it down the G scale. That means you're gonna be using the C note, 3rd fret of the A. 3 and that's 3rd fret, 4, 4th, let's see, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. The 4th beat is going to be that 2nd fret of the A, open A, and then the 5th fret of the D. This whole part, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Down the road, you can double those notes if you want to. Or you can stagger them where you're moving on the upstroke, which is kind of easier when you're going really fast. All right, down, up, so down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. You can even play that one twice. Or you play the 5th fret A twice. It's kind of easier if you move to that third fret of the A on the upstroke. Up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. And from here you can tag it out. 5, 2, open D, 4th fret of the G, open G. That's our favorite little super simple tag. You can double that, stagger it, or just play it single. All right, so coming out of our second E minor, perfect. Let's take it from the very top with all this stuff that we learned. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and a 2 and 3 and a 4 E. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. 1 and a 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Okay, so if you want to play pickup notes to the second time you're playing it, because the whole thing's going to repeat twice usually when you're jamming it, you can have these pickup notes. And 4 and 1, chromatic notes from the second fret of the A, first finger there, middle finger on the C note, third fret of the A, and then you got your ring finger note on the 4th fret, and then into your double stops. All right, there's your pickup notes. You can have those on the very beginning if you like it, to 1 and 2 and 3. You play the whole thing just like we did it, and at the very end, and instead of going down, you can arpeggiate your way to the top with half of our simple improv lick that we love so much with using the arpeggio chord tones, which is a shuffle. 1 and then moving through the chord tones of the arpeggio in G, second fret of the A, downstroke, 5th fret of the A, downstroke, and then finishing 3rd fret of the E, downstroke. 1 and a 2 and 3. You be right back into your rhythm. Okay, that's the whole thing. So let's talk about some upgrades. Just make sure you get that before you're kind of moving on to this more fancy stuff. So if you want to approximate the melody a little bit more, like Earl Scruggs, he's going like, so that's really hard to do on the mandolin, but you can kind of come down. That's a cool thing to do. 1 E and a 2 E and just walk down your scale, 5, 3, 2 for that melody. And then the third time, all the way down to your 5th fret of the E. All right, and you can have just that be your one upgrade, play everything else the same. If you want to add some more melody in there, I'll just kind of give you some ideas after you do your walk down there. That's kind of what Earl's doing. 1 E and a 2 E and 3 and a 4 E and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 4 E and 1. And if you want to really approximate the melody on the mandolin here, this would be way advanced intermediate, or probably advanced mandolin. You know, if you got the ear for that, you can slow it down and pick it out. 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 E and a 1. That's a little tag lick. You know, and then go to your D chord. Or scalar stuff. Like there. That's really advanced stuff, obviously. But these are some flavors that you can use if you want to have something like you cruising way up here. I remember on the fiddle, I think he's getting this G note in there. You know, it's got so much in common with bluegrass breakdown that you can kind of follow your ear in a lot of different directions. You can do all kinds of stuff, you know, stagger 16th notes. That might sound really complicated, and it is from a beginner perspective, Beginnermediate. But if you're into that Monroe sound, these are staggered arpeggios, you know, moving on the upstroke. Infinity. And one of my favorite red licks, my dad's a great mandolin player, you know, for your D lick. But that's way beyond the scope of our Beginnermediate, you know, flow. But we want to put some paint on the radar on the table and see what colors you like. But if you can just get this basic arrangement, you can even have the open G and open D ringing when you're doing that initial gambit. And on that, you can bar the second fret of the D and the second fret of the A, and then have your low fourth fret of the G note there and the open E ring. It's a big sound. So that's it, Foggy Mountain Breakdown. You know, I'm gonna look at the wrong side of the thing. Foggy Mountain Breakdown, Beginnermediate, got some more advanced upgrades there. Hope you've enjoyed this lesson. If you do like the lesson, let us know about it. Leave a little comment, say, hey, I like this, but I want to hear more of this other thing, or how's this other tune? You know, tell me what you want to hear and learn about, and I'll aim to do it. If you'd like to support the channel, you can subscribe. Of course, you can share this with your buddies. If you would like to contribute to the Patreon, you can check it out. Patreon.com/NoyanMountainMusic. Various tiers of rewards. We got the licks of the month on the guitar and the mandolin. We got the note for note on the mandolin, note for note on the guitar, and the 2 free workshops: the Monroe Style Workshop and then the monthly Noyan Mountain Music Workshop at the Family Tree tier level. You know, that's all included as the reward situation there. And we want to thank all of the Patreon folks who have been helping us make these videos. It's wonderful, and it's so cool to know that people are connecting with the music out there. It's, you know, I had so much help in my life and my family and our community growing up. It's nice to pass it on down the line. So I hope you're having a beautiful summer day, and we'll catch you on the next one. I like doing these Beginnermediates. R2D2, Kenny Baker to close us out. We'll see you next time, neighbors.